Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Tasha's Tales. Today, I am in conversation with a stranger. And Holly, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Holly, and we met recently at the school run, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Do you want to tell me your full name?
Oh, sure. It's Holly Callahan. Very fancy second name. I like it very much. No, I'm not a doctor. Sounds like I am. But we've just become friends, haven't we?
Yes, we have just become friends. So the reason why I'm calling Holly a stranger is because we met at the school gates back in September. And, you know, when your kids first start school and you start to look around, you think, who is on my scale? Who is a bit of me, a bit of my vibe? And Holly was just someone out there who I was looking at 1 week, week 2, week 3, and I'm like, I want to know more. This girl has a story.
I want to talk to that person
that I need to peel and get to know. So when we connected on Instagram, I was like, hell to the yeah. I've seen a lot more of Holly now.
Lots of skin.
And she had put on her bio, love enthusiast.
Yep.
And I totally love that. If anyone loves me, they know I just love. So when Holly messaged and said, oh, you should message someone whose Instagram inspires you, I was like, yeah.
That makes me feel
this
so...
is my opportunity. Come to my house.
Oh, so...
I kind of sound like a bit of a serial killer, don't I?
No, I miss that.
You?
I have such like a teeny little Instagram. So it's like, it's nice that someone looks at it and gets something from it. And I think I remember you came over Niall came over for my daughter's birthday party, and I was like, oh yeah, this is my Instagram, you know, blah, 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 check it out. And then I see yours and you've got way more followers than me. No. Oh my God, how embarrassing.
Do you know what happened? You messaged me and were like, are you on Instagram? And I was like, yes! We get to connect.
I am a little bit obsessed with Instagram. I just love it. It's such a good community.
No, but when you did that, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad she did, because that means I get to see what she's
I know, it
about.
always feels a bit weird being like, do you have Instagram when you're a grown-up? Don't you?
Like you're in your 30s.
You know what I mean? It's like, are we cool enough to do that now? What's your handle?
What's your handle, girl? But I loved it. And I saw all your stuff and all your body positivity stuff, and I was there for it.
I know, I need to get on that more. It's been a while since I've taken my kit off for people.
Yeah, it is a lot. I love it. Tell me how it was created.
Oh, well, look, like most aha moments that the human race have been having recently, it started in lockdown, pandemic, 2 new babies, nowhere to go, deep seated from many, rooted in many years of a very intense eating disorder, just sort of hating my body, not knowing who I was as a mother, not knowing who I was as a person now that I'd created 2 other people. And just, what were we going to do? We were stuck at home for literally years. So everyone took to Instagram, and I started looking for more, positive influences on Instagram, because there's a lot of nonsense on there.
Yeah.
And I started to look for women that look like me, and because that was something I'd never seen before. And it sort of, and then a couple of podcasts later of sort of self-help podcasts.
Us the podcast.
Oh my God. My favorite one is Jamila Jamil.
Okay.
I Weigh. It's honestly, it's a podcast about shame.
Okay.
And basically overcoming shame. And it just resonated with me so intensely, because I'd spent so many years just hating not just my body, but so much about myself. And then I had all this free time.
Yeah.
And I just delved into, do you know what? I'm going to start treating myself with some fucking respect and love, and all the stuff that I give to others, I'm going to start giving to myself. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to post. I think what the first post that I ever did was I was sunbathing out in the garden, because it was like a big heat wave in the first lockdown, wasn't it?
The weather was amazing.
And I took a picture of myself, sort of, I think I was in a bikini, a little selfie, just being like, oh, it's so nice. I've got the tummy out, got the wobbly tummy out. And then I just got comments and comments and comments from people saying, you're so brave, and oh, well done you, and oh, how courageous for you to take your take your clothes off. And I was just like, everyone means that from such a nice place. But wow, that hurts. Like, why is it courageous for me to get out a part of my body that I've always had? It's always been there. And it was a bit of a moment. Like, I don't need to be congratulated.
No, and self-love needs to come, like, because that's quite a dangerous ground, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you start posting to get kind of the comments back, and then that cycle can become a little bit addictive and a little bit obsessive.
It's nice when people are like, go girl. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm here for that. Sometimes I'll post a selfie just to be like, come on, say nice things to me. Mama needs it today. Come on, comment on stuff. But when people were just like, oh my God, you're so brave. I was like, I'm not brave. It's just a stomach.
Yeah.
I've not done anything. I've taken a photo.
Yeah.
Bravery is something very different. And so, although, you know, I suppose for people that have a lot of body issues like I had, it is brave in a different way. But, and then I started posting more pictures just to be like, this is what a normal body looks like.
Yeah.
And people seem to really resonate with that.
Yeah, because Instagram is full of picture perfect squares, isn't it? Of people looking a certain way, behaving a certain way, and that's far from reality.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's something about being imperfect.
Exactly.
That's actually really, really perfect.
And I'm definitely imperfect. I am wobbly. I am loud. I overshare. I'm incredibly liberal, and everyone knows about it. And say exactly what comes to my head, exactly as I'm thinking it. And Instagram was just a great way to meet like-minded people. And it's like, you know, when you have like a mantra, you say something enough, you're going to believe it. And I posted enough that I was like, you know what, I actually do really love myself.
Yeah.
And it was a great journey for self-healing.
It's and there's something, isn't it, about once you've given birth, your body changes drastically.
Oh God, what a journey that was.
Yeah, absolutely. My body, you know, my stomach, my legs, I'm covered in stretch marks that are going to be with me forever. But I kind of see them as like kind of, you know, the tiger print marks. That's what they remind me of, because I feel like it's a body that's carried 2 children. It tells a story. I don't actually want my body to be what it was like before I had children, because it's a constant reminder that it served a purpose. And yeah, I really, really love being able to tell my children as well that this tummy here, it carried you.
I also genuinely love that the way you feel about your body
100%.
after having kids, like that doesn't happen. Women don't feel that way. I didn't feel that way. People were saying, oh, tiger stripes. I would say, no.
Tiger stripes, that's the one.
I'd be like, no, it's gross. I was a size 12. I was size 10, I was size 12. And now I'm this. And I'd had an eating disorder for 15 years before I had my children. I met my now husband. We got pregnant really early on, 6 months into our relationship. It was very much a surprise that ended well, but still.
Yeah.
And I had my kids, and I no longer had the capacity to maintain my eating disorder. I had to feed myself. I had to feed my children because I was breastfeeding. I had to eat. And my body was so different. And I felt like I'd tricked him. I'd tricked Liam into falling in love with this picture, this tight sort of shaped body that was hell for me to maintain. It was so difficult for me to maintain. But now he was stuck with this, and it took me a really, really long time. Lockdown was like, couldn't have been a better cure for me to actually take a look at myself in the mirror and just be like, stop being so unkind.
Yeah.
Because like I would say to Liam, I'm so sorry that I look like this. And he'd be like, are you joking me? Like, you've given me everything. You've given me love and security and my children. This vessel is everything to me. Oh gosh, it makes me emotional. Just, oh gosh. It's it's an intense thing to talk about.
The thing is, Holly, you know, you mentioned 15 years of an eating
15 years.
disorder.
That was my
toll, the physical toll, the financial toll,
well, to be fair, it's quite cheap to have anorexia.
Yeah, but in terms of, does it, you know, form into, it becomes problematic. Of course it does, because it affects your self-esteem. It affects the relationships that you make it affects so many different things.
Honestly, I hand on heart, and I say this to every time I hear like women speaking about intermittent fasting and going on all these diets, and particularly young women, I want to sort of take them by their beautiful faces and just shake them and just be like, look, don't. I wasted my entire late teens and all of my 20s, mostly, like till I was about 27, worrying constantly about the way I looked. And the amount of holidays I didn't go on, food I didn't eat, places I didn't go, or like the amount of just loathing and going over everything I ate constantly. And it was like, what an enormous waste of my time. And it's left me with horrible joints, terrible bone density, autoimmune problems. My hair my hair still falls out. It was just such a gigantic waste for me. And it's going to sound a little bit like I'm a bad feminist, but to try and look nice for men, for like this patriarchal nonsense, just the male gaze. Why?
This assumption that a woman should look a certain way.
Yeah, I had the hair extensions and the fake tan and the just
aesthetically wanting to look like.
But why? It just doesn't. Now, looking back, it's just ridiculous to me. Like, people say, oh, would you want your body back before you had kids? Well, absolutely not, because my dad said something to me once. He can be wise when he wants to be. And I was quite skinny at the time, and I was talking about, this is, I'm feeling good to look this way. And he was like, if you have to work that hard to look like that, maybe you're not meant to look like that.
Yeah.
And it shook me to my core, just sort of like, oh my God, I'm killing myself.
Yeah, yeah. And because you can't let that guard down, I can imagine. So how old were you when the eating disorder started?
I would say it took hold officially. Oh, yeah. And I think it took hold officially when I was 19, 20, but it started when I was 17.
Wow.
Just get a backhanded comment from a horrible family member who I don't speak to anymore, telling a young teenage girl that she'd gained weight, and that started it. And then just more and more self-esteem problems. I've been a manic depressive for most of my life.
Was that before this comment was made?
So I've always struggled with mental health.
Like how much value,
catalyst,
how much value our comments can make so towards someone.
I comment on the way someone looks. Like it has nothing to do with you. Why comment?
And I was saying to you earlier, I come from a culture or a society where you need to look fair, you need to be really slim. And if you have coloured eyes, well, that's it. You're the most beautiful person going.
Yeah.
So there's all these kind of expectations that are completely and entirely unrealistic, because why on earth would you want someone to look like something
Absolutely.
they're not?
And particularly on women, and I don't want to take away from problems that, because, especially now these days, men are having a lot more issues with self-image and body image. And I'm not saying that isn't prevalent with men, but women in particular are just slated constant. And we do it to each other without realizing it. You lost weight, or you look so well.
Yeah. So after having Niall, I remember people were saying to me, bearing in mind, I am struggling with flashbacks. I'm struggling with the traumatic birth of my child. I've got, and now when I look back, significant post-traumatic depression.
Oh, really? Wasn't it intense?
And people were saying, oh, don't you look well?
And we snapped back quickly.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I most definitely don't feel it. I might look it, but that's not how I feel. Inside, I feel like I'm rotting away.
Oh.
My brain's rotting away. My feelings are rotting away. I've never, felt so vulnerable and so exposed at the same time. Yet
postnatal depression is awful.
It is awful. And, that was the very first time in my life that I've experienced poor mental health.
Yeah.
So my journey into mental health's been quite delayed. And I think I would thank my parents for that, because they are the most wonderful, supportive parents. They come from a generation where, I don't think they intentionally did it, but they would instill that confidence. You're beautiful. You're the best. We're so proud
That's
of
so
you.
wonderful.
Which is
So
why,
beautiful.
going back to me being proud of my body, I was. And I still am. And I
love that for you. Honestly, I would never wish those feelings on anybody. And I think it's so wonderful and inspiring to other women that you can genuinely love yourself.
Yeah.
And kudos to your parents for being bloody brilliant human beings as well.
And it's never too late. Because we are now parents ourselves and we've got children. It's never too late. We can still instill that confidence, that self-esteem into our children so they can love themselves.
Absolutely.
They should.
Well, my girls, they see it constantly. I make it my business now to celebrate myself where they can see it. I don't because I remember growing up watching my mum just looking at herself in the mirror and just being like, oh God, I'm so fat. And every diet under the sun, she did all of them. She had me on Weight Watchers when I was 13. And you know what? I don't mean that to sound horrible against her. She grew up in that generation and you couldn't be fat. And now my girls see me. I mean, I'm hardly obese, but I'm a bigger woman. And they'll say, we talk about the word fat, and I try and tell them fat isn't a bad word.
Yeah.
Fat is something you have. It's not something you are.
Yeah.
And when they're like, oh, big fat, and I'm like, fat is not a bad word. Yeah. You can call me fat if you want.
Use that to insult someone.
No, they say to me all the time, Mummy, you have such a fat tummy. And I say, okay, but what else is it? And they will say, it's beautiful, Mummy, because they watch me loving my own body. And the way I grew up watching my mum hate hers, I want them to grow up watching me being completely confident, self-aware and just loving it myself, because hopefully it will rub off a little bit.
Did you ever get any support in terms of your eating? Were you ever formally diagnosed?
No. I mean, I went to therapy for a little while, but it was never to do with my eating disorder, because it's celebrated, isn't it? When it's like you were saying, when you were having postnatal depression, everyone said you look so well. At the height of my eating disorder, and I'm talking 300 calories a day, less if I could, 2 or 3 days without food if I could manage it. Everyone was telling me how good I looked and how great I looked. And I did really well in my job. People started to be nice to me. I got scouted for a modeling agency in the middle of the street one time, and it was just, the ones they do on Market Street. Yeah. But that would never have happened to me when I actually looked after my body. And, and I didn't realize at the time, but unbelievably unhappy.
And obviously that makes a difference in terms of relationships as well.
Yeah.
Because if you're...
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were in a relationship.
I was in a very abusive relationship before I met my husband. And I think the fact that my self-esteem was just in tatters made me a perfect victim. Because
abusers prey on vulnerable women.
People on women who don't think they deserve any better.
Yeah.
I thought, well, I'm never going to do better than this gorgeous, beautiful man who's being nice to me sometimes. I won't do better because I've spent my whole life being overlooked. And bear in mind, this abusive guy I was with for 6 months. Thank God it wasn't longer. And then I met my husband, Liam, when I was 25. He was my first boyfriend.
Wow.
Ever. Because I spent my whole life being overlooked because of the way I looked.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a bit nuts as well, which probably doesn't help. But it really does affect your relationships, the way you see yourself. It does.
Of course it does.
I probably would have had more boyfriends and girlfriends if I'd wanted them back in if I'd loved myself more.
Yeah. In terms of Chris, your relationship with Chris, what was that like?
Oh, Chris, well, it wasn't good. It was classic tale. Man walks into the bar and, it was just massive love bombing. He showered me with praise and all this affection and love. And very early on it was very intense. And he was days in, he was like, I'm falling for you. And it was everything that I wanted at the time, because I was so cripplingly lonely and very, very isolated and mentally not in a good place. And then it was wonderful. And then without me even noticing how it happened, it turned into the belittling and the ignoring and the weaponized incompetence. And I would be buying his food and help cleaning his flat. And he had a very intense drug problem, and I would be nursing him through his overdoses. And then it got much worse. And then he started encouraging me to partake in things that I didn't want to partake in, but it happened. And then he started locking me in his flat. He started isolating me from my friends and from my family. And then it all came to a head one day when I thought he'd overdosed, and I essentially broke into his apartment, and he beat me up really, really badly. Really, really badly. And luckily I was like, right, I snapped, and I called the police, and we did the whole he went to court thing, and nothing came of it. He didn't get he got community service and a bit of therapy, but that was it. But
you didn't get any victim support?
Nothing, absolutely nothing. Just crippling debt because he'd stolen all my money. And I say this with the utmost sincerity. I would not change it. Because if it hadn't been for that awful man treating me like that, I wouldn't have turned around one day and said, you know what? I am fed up. I am fed up with people treating me like this. I'm fed up of allowing myself to be treated like this and just hating my life when I could be living it properly.
That one incident made you realize your self-worth.
Yes.
And do you know something, Holly? I've worked with women who have been victims of domestic abuse, and it is not easy to leave.
No.
It's not easy. It's not easy when they are in control of you in every single way possible. And the fact that you did, because that could have happened again and again and again until you weren't here. So the fact that you kudos to you. That takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of willpower to be like, do you know what? I'm not putting up with this.
Yeah.
I deserve better. So there is a law called Clare's Law. I know we've mentioned it before, but Clare's Law is a law that was passed, I don't know how long ago, but when you're getting into a new relationship with a partner, you can share their information and find out if there's been any historical abuse with their previous partners.
Something I wish I'd known about, that's for sure.
So if you're listening to it, if you speak to any of your friends, if I speak to any of my friends, I always say, please go and look into the Clare's Law.
If you're feeling a certain kind of way about someone you're seeing,
even if you're not.
I mean,
Because
what's the worst that can happen?
Narcissists, and especially people who are extremely intelligent, extremely wealthy, they can be even more manipulative. So I would say, just to be assured, just check it out.
Yeah, because you never know. You never know. I'm a smart person. I'm a smart woman. And he just got his claws in, and I still cannot pinpoint the time where I saw it happening. I just never saw it. It was just, it's insane.
You weren't the only one though.
No, I wasn't. There were, I think, 3 other women. One who I'm still in contact with.
Really?
On Instagram, yeah, because I messaged, she was his neighbor. And I said, just so you know, I've been around and he's been around. There were a few other women. I see him every so often in Manchester city centre as well.
Do you?
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, I've come such a long way, but every time I see him, my guts just drops out of me. It's just, and then you sort of want to run in the other direction, because that sort of trauma, it never really leaves you. It
doesn't. But should I tell you something? Have you heard? We all know about post-traumatic stress disorder, right? PTSD. Everyone talks about it. So many of us have experienced it at some point in our life. But there's something that has just been made known to me recently called post-traumatic growth.
What's that?
What you are. You've experienced trauma and you've grown from it. You are the absolute example of post-traumatic growth. Your experiences and your traumas that you have used to your advantage and now acquired skills, acquired kind of the tenacity that someone else might not. So your traumas have kind of given you that growth and strength.
Oh gosh, what a lovely label to put on that. I actually love that. Yeah. I love that so much.
Yeah.
And do you know what? the experiences that I've gone through have only made me, weirdly, like when I was younger, didn't really like women that much. And I didn't realize either. I was always weirdly in competition with all my female friends, if I had any female friends.
Yeah.
I always said, "Oh, I'm a man's woman. You know, I have male friends."
Yeah, tomboy.
Yeah, but sort of just seeking validation for every man I ever came into contact with. And all it ever did was put me in shitty situations and cause me more heartbreak and everything. And then everything that I've gone through, and now I have this gorgeous community of amazing women and all these beautiful female friendships that I lean on and nurture, and all these incredible human beings that I've become friends with.
Make me cry.
It's a wonderful thing. Honestly, I think one of the greatest things as a woman that you can cultivate is female friendships.
And I am owning that in my 30s.
Absolutely.
I truly am, because I feel like my move to Manchester, and you know, it was a big move, didn't know anybody here. And actually, social media has been a huge part of that.
Right?
I have met some of the most wonderful, amazing, close friends through social media.
Well, I heard on your first podcast that you met a lot of your friends through your Instagram page.
Believe it or not,
which is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to make friends when you're in your 30s.
It is.
And a new parent.
And especially when you're a lot. So I wear all of me on my sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm quite loud. I'm quite an extrovert. I'll say things without putting filter on it. I'll say it how it is. And I think in real life, that's not always deemed suitable or appropriate.
No, absolutely not.
So my people on the Tinternet, they've kind of got a little bit of me, and they already know what to expect.
Yeah.
And they want more. So I'm here for it.
I love that. I love that you're extra and more and wonderful. Like that's like looking in a mirror. It's exactly what I'm like. And I think you are the best kind of human being, because
so are you, Holly.
You. We live in such a repressed world.
We do.
Where people feel they have to portray a certain character and way they look to be accepted. And I've always been very weird. Very weird.
Yeah, me too. Did you look in my toilet? It says something about being the black sheep of the family. And to be honest, that's always been me.
Yeah.
It's always made me feel weird and I'm an outcast.
Yeah.
But the older I'm getting, the more I'm like, actually, I really like that about myself.
Absolutely.
I don't want to fit in any boxes. Like your boxes can do one.
I never fit in at school.
No.
Or in my 20s. I feel like I finally I'm like in my 30s. It's like a perfect pair of shoes that you finally fit. You know what I mean? And then you can actually walk comfortably for a change.
There's something really liberating about it.
Getting older is the tits. I love getting older. Honestly, everyone's like, "Oh, I'm losing my youth as I get older," and I'm like, "Oh my god, bring on the greys, bring on the wrinkles, bring on the wisdom,
bring it all."
I love getting older.
People,
absolutely,
who are on you, because we don't have time for bullshit.
No,
we don't. We only have time for wholesome, positive people. Anyone who's toxic, no.
I've done. Yeah, it's like your tolerance for nonsense.
Yeah,
is a lot thinner, isn't it?
Yeah. Holly,
I
knew you had a story. I picked you out of a large bun.
Oh gosh.
And I just knew.
Thank you so much for asking me to be on the podcast. I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. Even if it, like you said, to bring people together and because now I feel like we're going to be really good friends.
I think we are. I bloody well hope so, because I'm coming for that bruschetta.
Absolutely. Well, there is 2 more pastries on this table.
Yeah, so we will continue that. No, thank you for being bold enough to say to come on. And whether someone else benefits from this or not, this is a chat that's going to stay with me forever. This is a chat that we can pass on to Willow and Niall at some point. And I think that's really, really nice.
Definitely.
I think I'm going to cry. So before I cry, thank you for listening. And hopefully Holly's going to come back on again.
Oh, love to.
Bye.